and we are live with another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside, as always, by my co-host, Andrew Johnson. And Johnson, first and foremost, a very happy Thanksgiving to everyone here on the All Gas No Break Sports Show. And we now look into this upcoming week in the NFL, a very wild week number 13 that we just had. Record-wise for us in the pick'ems, definitely to be left desirable, but it was still a great Thanksgiving holiday. Great games we had all throughout Thursday, Friday, Sunday, and we'll talk about the Monday night game later on in the show. But first and foremost, Johnson, how was your Thanksgiving?
Oh, it was wonderful. I really can't complain. How about yourself?
Cannot complain the slightest. Great time as always with the family and watching football as well. While you get to eat and talk, see relatives for the first time in a little bit. It's always a fun time. So cannot complain the slightest. And as I mentioned, we got some pretty good football this past week to break down here in the show today, and it really gets things going with the three games that we had on Thanksgiving Day. And let's start off first with that game in Detroit between the Packers and the Lions. And Johnson, it finally seems as if the Packers offense is clicking at probably the most opportune time in the season for them right now. A big performance from Jordan Love, a nice ground game for a multitude of Packer running backs, including, of course, Josh Jacobs, who returned from injury. Dontavian Wicks with a monster showing at 94 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns, including the game-clinching first down reception late in the game. And the Lions, on the other hand, their defense has really been struggling the last couple of weeks. Jared Goff and company were up and down in this game. The stats wise, it doesn't look like Goff struggled in this game, but a lot of pressures, a couple sacks given up by the Lions offensive line. They couldn't really run the football as they usually do, and the biggest thing that they lost in this game was Amon-Ra St. Brown. He goes down early in the first quarter. That definitely hurt the Lions at the end of the day in terms of the offensive side of the ball. We'll have to see if he plays next week on Thursday against the Cowboys. Big game for Jamison Williams, but it does not matter. The Packers do get the season sweep over the Detroit Lions with a 31 to 24 victory over Detroit. They now go to 8-3-1. They're a half game back of Chicago in the NFC North, and the Lions, meanwhile, they dropped to 7-5, and their playoff chances are starting to dwindle in the NFC race.
So I'm going to start by saying that the Detroit halftime show should have been the Super Bowl halftime show.
Very good
Probably the
show from
best.
Eminem.
Probably the best halftime show you had. You had Jack White and you had Eminem, so it was a perfect combined words, a perfect
Mixture.
of both rap and rock, and kind of hit the core demographic of the NFL. They want to hit that 18 to 35-year-old demographic, and they hit the nail on the head with those two bands. So, or one band and the one rapper. So,
right,
they did a great job there. But I want to talk about the Packers now because this they could very easily be a one-loss team right now.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And it's kind of insane
how it's their own reason that they have those losses.
Yeah, I mean they lost. They tied with the Cowboys. They had that horrendous loss to the Browns. It's very possible they should be a 10 or 11 win football team right now.
Yeah,
and they really showed on Thanksgiving what they're made of.
Yeah, and that's I think what's been the most frustrating part about that. The offensive talent is there for this team, but in those games against Cleveland, the Philly loss, the Panther loss, like all those three games were horrible offensive games for them. Even the game against the Vikings last week wasn't a really good offensive showing for them, but their defense has been the big reason why they've been able to maintain and stay up front in the NFC playoff race. And with them getting the win, they got a big game this week with the Bears. They still have to play the Bears twice on the regular season. And looking at their schedule real quick before we talk about the Lions in a second, as I mentioned, they have the two games with the Chicago Bears coming up in the next 5 weeks. They also go to Denver, which is a tough road game, and then they play the Ravens at home, and then they end the year at Minnesota. So not an easy schedule for the Packers in these 5 games, but a real good shot at them not only having a chance to win the NFC North, but they have a chance as well to clinch home field advantage throughout the entire NFC race.
Yeah, and NFC clinching the NFC when we thought that the Rams had it on lockdown. I mean, anything is possible at this point. But I want to talk about, Nick.
Yeah.
That tightening NFC East race. I want to
Well,
talk about
before
how okay,
yeah, go ahead.
go ahead.
I just
No,
wanted to
you.
bring up the Lions for a second because my question to you was going to be is where should their fans be at the panic meter right now? Because they're 2 games out, or correction, they're a game and a half out of the last wild card spot in the postseason, and in the division they're 2 games back full of Chicago. So where should they be at panic wise?
They should hit the panic button last week, and now you can start evacuating ship because it's very possible that the Lions lose 4 of their last 5 games.
Yeah, it's a really bad.
It
It's a
is
tough
more.
schedule.
You're talking about Cowboys prime time, then you're at Los Angeles, then you're going to host the Steelers. You have a chance for that game. You probably should beat them. And then you're at the Vikings on Christmas Day. Listen. I know the Vikings are not good, but it's a divisional game on Christmas. Crazier things have happened.
Right.
And then you're at Chicago, and Chicago, who we thought were dead to rights, proved everyone wrong the last
And
couple
remember,
of
they
weeks.
lost to the Vikings earlier this season too, so it's not guaranteed that they beat the Vikings on Christmas, as you mentioned.
Yeah, nothing's guaranteed. I would say probably the easiest game is probably hosting the Steelers,
Yeah, I agree
and
with you,
even then, that's probably
100%.
they have a 70% chance of winning that game.
Their playoff odds right now are 43%, and
I
as we
believe it.
mentioned, yeah, I think that's high. I still think that's really really high.
Well, it's giving them probably that they'll beat the Steelers, that they'll beat the Vikings. It's probably giving them 2 wins, right? It's probably saying, hey, listen, here's your path to 9 wins. And now if you win one of the last 3 with 10 wins, you might have a chance, be a
Yeah,
tiebreaker or whatever. So
and
that's where the 43, I think that's what's getting them.
I think what's fascinating about this upcoming week for them is that this is essentially a playoff eliminator game. You know, we talk about that a lot in college football, but this game with the Cowboys is essentially a playoff eliminator for both sides. So whoever wins is going to stay alive. Whoever loses is probably done because their odds are very,
Yeah.
very slim right now. So I'm very interested to see about that. But you were talking about that NFC East race. I'm sure you're alluding to the next game we have on our docket.
Yeah, how about them Cowboys, Nick?
They're heating up. They're heating up. I can't deny it. I
Now,
know.
if the Cowboys, I'm gonna say this is crazy. If the Cowboys were a 9-win team, that I think that could be one of the favorites for MVP.
100%. Yeah, he's had a
Yeah,
great. He's
he's
had a
had an
great season.
absolute fantastic year.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that about them Chiefs. Let's talk about Patrick Mahomes. Let's talk about
Yeah.
hey Nick, what's the Chiefs record right now?
They're 6-6, and their season's on
Six
the
and
line this
six.
week.
Oh man, it'll be really funny if it go become 6-7. 6-7 sounds like a good ring for the Chiefs.
And here's the worst part for them: they're facing a really hot Houston Texans team on Monday Night Football, and they have to essentially win out. It looks like I feel like they have no other choice but to win out. And you're playing the Texans, you're playing the Chargers, Titans. You should win, obviously. You play the Broncos on Christmas Day, and then you beat the Raiders. So you're guaranteed 2 wins out of that 5. The other 3 are not guaranteed it whatsoever. Now we don't know what's the status of Justin Herbert right now. Had to get surgery on his left hand, so we'll see what his status is for Monday night as well as the upcoming weeks afterwards. But you're facing a Texans defense has been unbelievable this season. You're facing a Chargers team that you lost to earlier in the year. You're facing a Broncos team you lost earlier in the year as well. So they essentially have to win out, and their only hope at this point is one of those 2 AFC South teams to pretty much lose out, it feels like. Because I don't think at this point it looks like Buffalo's going to fall out. The Colts are starting to go on a little bit of decline the last couple weeks. And it really comes down to I feel like one of those 2 AFC South teams are probably going to miss the playoffs between Jacksonville and Indianapolis. And if it's the Chiefs or the Texans or the Steelers, which more likely will be either the Texans or the Chiefs, they have the great opportunity to steal one of those 2 spots from the Texans, or excuse me, from the Colts or the Jaguars in that scenario. But it's
Yeah,
going to take a lot.
it's gonna be crazy because it feels like the Chiefs are out of time.
Yeah,
Like time is right. The hourglass was already ticking 2 weeks ago, but
they
now it
all
feels like because all the other teams ahead of them gained ground and they haven't. They've lost ground in
they're
the last
on
couple weeks.
they're on their last sand of
That
that
hourglass.
hourglass. Yeah, and the only hope they have is the Colts. I feel like at this point because the only win they have out of the teams that is currently in the wild card spot is the Colts.
And
They lost the
that was
Bill.
gifted to them on a silver platter by the referees. Because if that would have happened, they would have lost four straight.
Right. And you lose to Buffalo, you lose to the Chargers, you lose to Jacksonville. So you have no tiebreaker over anyone besides Indianapolis. So your only hope is for the Colts to lose pretty much, I don't know, four of their next five. And I'm not
It's
saying it's not.
possible.
It's
It's
definitely
very
possible
possible.
because we'll break down the Colts schedule a little bit later on when we break down their game. But yeah, it's the Chiefs essentially have to win out, and they need the Colts to lose probably lose 2 or 3 games in that scenario as well.
Yeah,
So
and I can see them
it's
losing to the Texans, Niners, and Seahawks.
yeah, Chiefs right now have a 33% chance of making the playoffs, and we talked about this last week. If you told us going into the year that Kansas City and Detroit would both be on the outside looking in, and their odds now are less than 50% to make the playoffs going into week 14, we would have told you you're crazy. But that's exactly where we are right now. And on the other side of things, you have to give your tip of the cap, as you mentioned, to Dallas, because they've been playing some inspired football as of late. They're 6-5-1. They've got a realistic shot. The Eagles probably will still win the division just because of how their schedule is the next couple weeks. But Dallas has a real shot of maybe sneaking in as the NFC East winner. They would need the Eagles to really collapse, which they have been doing these last couple weeks. They would need them to fully collapse, and Dallas want to continue this win streak right now. Their odds are 17%, but Dallas is showing some fight. You have to give them credit for that.
Oh, absolutely. Give Dallas a lot of credit. And you know, it's a really great stat, Nick. Tom
Uh,
Brady has never, in his illustrious career, taking a or played a snap of football when he was mathematically eliminated from the playoffs.
yeah,
If Patrick Mahomes, if it gets to the point where the Kansas City Chiefs they lose their upcoming game to the Texans, and then they lose,
yeah. I
let's
mean,
say to the Broncos or the Chargers one more time, you're
oh, it
gonna
doesn't
start having
matter
some uncomfortable conversations about
if they lose to
is
the
he the next
Texans.
Tom
It's
Brady?
done. They have no shot if they lose to Houston. They would have no tiebreakers over anybody besides the Colts, and even then, it doesn't matter.
But yeah,
You would
then
be
again, then you could win four games. Here's listen, they're not mathematically eliminated. I know it's slim, but they
it'd be
could win
very
four
slim.
games, and if the Colts still lose four games, they would have 10 wins, and the Colts would
And
have
it's
nine.
not like this is the same as Detroit and Dallas, where it feels like it's an eliminator game. It feels like only an eliminator game for Kansas City in that spot. Houston only would still have a good shot just because the AFC South is starting to get a little bit closer. They're now a full game back in the division with their win on Sunday, and they still could sneak into a wild card because they beat Buffalo just a couple weeks ago. So Houston's got a really good shot at this point, and that's why it doesn't feel like it's an eliminator game for them. It's only realistically, in my opinion, an eliminator game for Kansas City if they were to lose against Houston on Monday night. So it's all or nothing for the Chiefs on Monday, and they're facing. I wouldn't even say arguably they're facing the toughest defense in the entire NFL right now. So it's gonna be a tough game for them on Monday night.
Want to talk about
Um,
tough defenses, Nick? It
you would
certainly
never
wasn't the Ravens on
you would
Thanksgiving.
certainly never say that about the Cincinnati Bengals.
Never, but it certainly wasn't the Ravens either.
No,
My God, Joe Burrow,
he's
triumphant
back.
return, and carved up that Ravens defense.
Yeah. And give the credit to the Bengals defense. They forced 5 turnovers on the Baltimore Ravens offense. It feels so weird because I don't know if you agree with me on this, but it really feels like Lamar Jackson's still injured. Like he is not
He definitely
fully
is
healthy
still
right now.
injured.
There's
He's not
no way he's
healthy.
healthy.
He's looked so poor. He went from
Yeah.
MVP candidate at the beginning of the year to just like, what are we doing? But on the flip side, it looks like Joe Burrow doesn't look like he was that injured. I know they had the whole thing on the sideline. He's taking his cleat off in between offensive snaps. I get it, but he looked great out there.
Now, here's the question I got for you. 5 games left for each team, obviously. The division is a crapshoot at this point. Baltimore leads the division still at 6-6. Pittsburgh had an unbelievably horrible performance against Buffalo this past Sunday, so they're still 6-6, and the Bengals are 4-8. Do the Bengals have a realistic shot to win this division?
5%.
Because I look at it like this. Here's the last 5 games for Cincinnati. These next 2 games are going to be really foretelling if they can do it. They play at Buffalo this week, and then they're home again against Baltimore. But their final 3 game shots are very winnable. At Miami, home against Arizona, home against Cleveland. Those last three are very winnable games. So I
And
feel as
you know,
if they could sneak one of these next two games to get a win, I think they have a realistic shot.
and it's really a shame because Joe Flacco, they brought him in. He did exactly as advertised. He had great games with leads against the Jets and the Bears late in the
Yeah,
game, and his defense couldn't get, and their defense couldn't get it done. So this is a Bengals
yeah.
team that realistically should be 6-6 right now,
They should be
if it
either
wasn't for
be
their
6-6
piss poor
or 5-8
defense.
at least, or 5 and
Yeah,
7. Sorry.
yeah. At a minimum, should be 5-7. They realistically they should be 6-6.
And here's the other schedules for the other two teams. Baltimore has to play the Steelers twice. That's this upcoming weekend. They're at Cincinnati, as I mentioned. Then they play the Patriots, at the Packers, and at the Steelers to end the season. That's a bad schedule for Baltimore.
You know what
And
is
then
crazy too?
yeah, go on.
At the beginning of the season, like, wow, if the Patriots could win max of 11 games, and I was counting those games, I was like, okay, for Ravens, that's a loss. Now I'm thinking that could be a
The Patriots
potential win. Like, they
that
might
could be
win
a
that game
potential win,
outright
yeah.
now.
And the Steelers will obviously play Baltimore twice this upcoming weekend, the final regular season game. And then in between that, they have Miami, at Detroit, and at Cleveland. And I would say those are give me wins against Miami and Cleveland. But with the way the Steelers are playing right now, I don't think necessarily anything is a guarantee for them at this point. I think the Bengals realistically have a shot to do this. I think
I
it's
guess only
certainly
time
up
will
there.
tell.
Yeah. This division is just terrible. It
So
is so bad.
let's talk about defying the odds, and let's talk about how the Chicago Bears defy a bad quarterback to potentially win the division. As they,
Not only the division, they might have a chance at the number one seed.
all right, let's pump your brakes here for a second
I
there.
mean, they are the number one seed right now.
Yeah. And
I'm
I'm going
not
to be a
saying it.
millionaire too.
Listen, I'm not saying it's going to happen. You have to give Ben Johnson. I mean, he's got to win Coach of the Year for what he's done this season.
Mike Vrabel.
Well, remember they do it in the. Don't they do AFC and NFC, or is it just one?
I'm not sure.
I don't.
I think it's just the Coach of the Year.
It might just be. It might just be one Coach of the Year. Yeah. Yeah, Variable is going to have, and Johnson are probably going to be the top two candidates. They have to be. But regardless if it's either one of them, I mean, they both deserve the award. They should co-own it, honestly, at this point. They've been both so great for two franchises. The Patriots, we knew eventually they would get back to being this way. But
if I'm kind of I kind of don't want Coach of the Year because it feels like all the coaches that do get Coach of the Year end up
they
getting
get in the
fired.
hot seat pretty quickly. Yeah,
Because
trust me.
Let's talk about over the last decade, or let's talk the last decade or last 5 years.
What Stefanski's won two. He's probably he might get fired this season.
Kevin O'Connell, hot seat right now. Dable's been fired.
Yeah,
Vrabel got fired in Tennessee. Did not deserve it, but he got fired. Harbaugh, hot seat. Matt Nagy, fired. Sean McVay, only guy on this list.
He's the only
Jason Garrett,
he's the only guy. That's
Jason
okay.
Garrett gone.
Yep.
Riverboat Ron fired, but now he got another job. Listen, that's just the last 10 years. There's probably only one guy on here that's not fired.
Wait, where's Riverboat Ron now?
Oh, wasn't he on the Commanders? Oh wait, no, he got another job with the Commanders. Yeah, he got fired twice. Excuse me.
Fired twice. Yeah, I think McVay's the only guy that's been safe on that entire list.
Yeah, he's the only guy that has never had his job security questioned.
Yeah, honestly, if I were you, I would just hope that Ben Johnson gets it, or even the Panthers coach Dave Canales, because I would have wanted
another great candidate.
Yeah. But yeah, talk about this game. I mean, this wasn't really close. Like, the Bears dominated them on both sides of the ball. They ran for 280 yards, 130 from Monangai, 125 from DeAndre Swift. Caleb Williams didn't really have to do anything in this game. He just had to hand the ball off, and that was fine. He had a nice touchdown pass to Cole Kmet that pretty much sealed the game. But their defense also deserves a lot of credit. They really gave Jalen Hurts and company fits. Saquon Barkley has just not been there. And that's despite the fact that the Bears had their top four linebackers out for the game. The Eagles still could not run the ball. A.J. Brown, another great game, but if you're noticing a trend, A.J. Brown has had 100 yards receiving the last two games. The Eagles have lost both of those games. So he has wanted the ball. He's gotten the ball, but the Eagles have not gotten the win at the end of the day. It feels weird because this is a team that obviously won the Super Bowl last year. They're now the 3 seed in the NFC going into this week. But as I mentioned, they're only a game and a half up on Dallas, who they just lost to recently. So I wouldn't say they're probably going to fall out. And the only reason I say that is because if you look at the remaining schedule, they play the Chargers, who might not have Herbert this Monday. you play the Raiders. You have 2 games against the Commanders, and you're at the Bills. So I severely doubt that they will collapse and lose a lot of these games. They probably lose at the very most 2, but they probably go 4-1 in the stretch. Maybe even 5-0. Who knows? But it's really not good that they're doing this late in the season. Like they're playing really bad football these last couple weeks. Even when they were winning games, they were still playing some very bad football, and they've got to figure something out sooner rather than later because time's a ticking for Kevin Batullo and the rest of that offensive unit. They got to get something going.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if the trend continues the way Caleb's been playing, I know there's still 5 games left, so he could kind of bump it up a notch. But if he continues his current trend, Chicago will not have a quarterback that has over 4,000 passing yards for another season.
Where is he
So
at right now?
he is currently at 2,700, I believe. Let me take a look. I know I just had it in front of me, so forgive me.
27-2-2.
Yeah, so he's on pace right now for 38.55.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get it because the Bears have been running the football so good these last couple weeks. Like they might as well
And
just
he's
keep
got some
going with the
really elite
1-2
defense
punch.
ahead of you too.
I
So
think the biggest thing that's been good for them is that we talked about this in the preseason. They did so much work on their offensive line in the offseason. It is showing this season. They've been running the football perfectly. Caleb, as I mentioned, hasn't had to throw the ball a lot. And when he does, has made some good throws. He's still making some bad throws here and there, but he's still making some solid throws along the way. And we talked about this, I think it was either last week or 2 weeks ago, where they had to essentially win. We were looking at the schedule. They had to win maybe like 4 or, probably 4 games out of their last, like at the time, it was probably like 7 or something. They've beaten the Steelers, they've beaten the Eagles, obviously. They've now won 5 straight games. They have won 9 out of their last 10. And it feels like they pretty much just need to win one more game, right? In my opinion, 10-7 should be good enough to make the
10
playoffs.
and 7 should be fine.
Yeah, because I don't. At the point, they might have to win 11 just because of you still have to watch out for Detroit, even though they're struggling right now. But you do have the Packers twice, obviously tough games. The Browns defense has been pretty good this season, but they probably should get the win in that game. Tough game at San Francisco, and then you're home against Detroit to end the year. Obviously, trying to bounce back after giving up 52 to them earlier in the season. So we'll see how the Bears do in the next couple weeks, but they're in a good spot.
You know who's not in a good spot, Nick?
Do tell me.
Well, it's not the Panthers or the Rams because, in a surprising shock, the Panthers actually upset the Rams. And here's my question for you: are the Carolina Panthers the best 7-win team in NFL history?
They are the most confusing 7-win team in NFL
Just think
history.
about
How
it.
about
The
that?
teams they beat, right, to get the 7 wins. Rams, playoff contender or Super Bowl contender. Packers, Super Bowl contender, playoff contender. They beat the Cowboys, which is another team that's eyeing for the
In
playoffs right
contention,
now.
yeah.
But then you lose to teams like the Saints, and you lose to teams like the
Cardinals.
Cardinals.
Yeah.
So, like, it's very, very, very confusing, to say the
I
least.
mean,
But
have you noticed the trend they've had the last couple weeks?
yeah, it's win, loss, win, loss, win, loss.
Which means they're probably going to lose to the Saints this week.
Then they're gonna beat the Bucks, and then the Bucks are gonna be out of the playoffs, and then oh my god, they're gonna beat the Bucks twice. Is that what you're telling me? This is how Baker goes out.
I'm just saying, Carolina's they're knocking on the door right now. If I'm Tampa Bay, I mean, you might have the half game lead right now, but it's not going to be easy for the Buccaneers right now.
So
I don't know. I mean, this game was just credit to this Panthers unit and what they've been doing this season. Other than the bad losses to New Orleans and Arizona, we've seen some flash from Bryce Young this season. Some good flashes and some pretty bad performances, including that game last week at San Francisco. But 3 passing touchdowns, 5 incompletions, 206 yards on the air. Very solid performance. A nice game on the ground for both Chuba Hubbard and Rico Dowdle. And their defense did something that we haven't seen from Matthew Stafford in a couple months. They forced 2 interceptions on Stafford. One of them was a pick 6. And I think Stafford up to that point, I think had thrown 27 or 28 straight passing touchdowns without an interception. So they ended that streak for Stafford, and they get a big win. Just when we thought that the Rams were the best team in football, they just had a really bad showing in this matchup with Carolina. And with the way the NFC West is right now, they really can't afford losses like this because they're tied with Seattle and they're only a half game up on San Francisco. So it's very thin right now, but it looks like all three teams in the NFC West should make the postseason regardless. It's going to come down to who gets the division, and whoever wins the division, I think more than likely, in my opinion at least, whoever wins the division is probably going to get home field advantage in the postseason.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of exciting times right now. Uh, like you mentioned, San Fran probably a lock, Rams probably a lock, Green Bay probably a lock, but they're all
Seattle
kind
should
of
be a
fighting.
lock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Seattle's a lock too. They're all kind of fighting for that top seed though.
Yeah. I think, and I'm looking at I'm trying to look at the Buccaneers schedule real quick before we move on to our next game. Of course, the Panthers, they play them twice. They play the Saints in this upcoming weekend, the Falcons, and the Dolphins. So, I mean, on paper, the Buccaneers,
Should
they
win
should
division.
get
They
in. They
should.
should still win the division. But obviously, the Carolina games are gimmies now, the way they've been playing over the course of time this last couple weeks. So, I would say maybe they probably split at best, or maybe at worst for them. But they should beat the Falcons. They should beat the Saints. The Miami game, they probably should win, but who knows? They could. I could see them maybe. I could very well see them losing that game at Miami, and then the Panthers game in Week 18 is for the division. I could very much well see that right now.
Yeah, only time will tell.
But we saw that's the NFC South race, Johnson. Let's talk about the AFC South race. We have a change at the top of the division as with the Jaguars win over the Titans, multiplied that with the Texans being the Colts. The Jaguars are now in first place in the AFC South. And the Houston Texans, their division rival, were the reason why they got it done. We talked about this earlier. But this Texans defense has just been playing incredible over these last few weeks. They win again and beat the Colts this time 20-16, the final in this matchup in Indianapolis this past weekend. Houston now rallying off four straight wins, almost could have made it maybe six in a row if they just had a better performance against Denver a couple weeks back. But they've looked great against Josh Allen in Buffalo the week prior, great against Indianapolis, two of the best offenses, in my opinion, in the entire NFL. They got the Chiefs on Monday night. Right now, they are currently, as we mentioned earlier on, they are currently a full game back in the wild card, but that's behind both the Colts and the Bills, who they have the tiebreaker over right now. And with the matchup against the Chiefs, they can not only help their odds, but they can eliminate the Chiefs pretty much from postseason contention. And they still got a shot at the division title, obviously, being just a full game back.
Yeah,
And
we
looking at
live.
their go ahead.
No, we live in a world where all three AFC South teams are contending, outside of the aforementioned Titans, who have a
Yeah,
zero
that's it.
percent chance of doing anything, could make the playoffs. You can see a three-bid AFC South. Imagine saying that to someone in 2021 or 2022.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that could be the scenario. And we knew going into the year this Texans defense was going to be insane. Like they're a top five defense, probably the best defense in the entire league. Will Anderson and Stingley have been so shut down on both of their respective positions. And looking at the Texans' last five games, the aforementioned game against the Chiefs on Monday, then they got the Cardinals and the Raiders, which are games they should win. They're at the Chargers, which that could feel like a win in that book, in my opinion, because of how bad the Chargers' offensive line is and how good that defense is for Houston. And then they round out the year at home against the Indianapolis Colts. So the Texans are in a really good spot. Their playoff odds right now are 63%. So they are they've got better odds right now than the Chargers are currently in the postseason at the moment. So that just goes to show you how much everyone trusts this defense right now. And I don't say I blame them. And if I'm Indy Johnson, do you start to panic or are you not there yet?
You could panic just a tiny bit because you still have the better offense on paper. You have to get healthy. I think you're still the overall favorite to win the division, despite what happened this past week. So take a deep breath and panic just a tiny bit, but not a lot.
Now, do you panic because of the last 5 games of the year?
You panic because Daniel Jones is not healthy and Anthony Richardson is your
Right.
backup. That's why you
They
panic. That's
arguably
why you
have the
panic.
toughest. They arguably have the toughest 5 games remaining in the season.
So it's not like you have your starting quarterback now who was playing at MVP level up until he got hurt, and he's playing
Yeah,
hurt right now. Playing for a fracture is no joke.
yeah. I know. It's kind of incredible that he is playing through this right now. So
Yeah,
I
he's playing
yeah.
for a
Go ahead. Go ahead.
contract, Nick. He's playing for a
Yeah. No. Hundred
contract.
percent. 100%. I think the only reason I panic is what I just talked. We just talked about with the schedule. They play the Jaguars twice, and in between those 2 games with Jacksonville, they play the Seahawks and the 49ers, and their last game of the year is against Houston. So it's really, really tough. I really think that has to be the toughest schedule remaining in the NFL.
I don't
So
think this
they
is a
will.
tougher one.
No, I like we mentioned with that Chiefs scenario earlier. There's a realistic shot that they could maybe lose out and miss the playoffs. But as you mentioned, time is only going to tell if that's going to happen or not.
Only time will tell.
What's our next game we got going?
We got the Broncos destroying the Commanders, but not really. Had an overtime thriller.
That was actually a
Sneaky
relatively
good
fun
game.
game. Yeah,
Yeah.
give props to Washington despite the injuries. But they fought in this game with Marcus Mariota and company. But they went for a 2-point conversion after scoring the almost game tying touchdown in overtime. They went for 2 because why not? You're 3-8. You might as well go for it. They were not able to convert that, and they fall in this game by the final of 27-26. So Denver now wins their 9th straight game. They will go into next week at 10-2, a half game behind your New England Patriots, who we'll talk about in just a few moments. But yeah, Denver's in a really good spot to finally end. Of course, obviously, it looks like they're going to end that Chiefs streak of winning the division, but the division title is still not clinched for them yet, but they're very close to doing so. And in the meantime, you look at the remaining schedule for them at Vegas, home against Green Bay, home against Jacksonville, at KC, at home against the Chargers. So it's an up and down schedule. They definitely should beat the Raiders. The last 4 games are probably a question mark, but it's been a very nice year for Denver, regardless of what the schedule remains the rest of the season. They are playing some pretty good football. Defense struggled in this game, but they're still one of the top 5 units in the entire NFL.
And speaking of top 5 units in the NFL, talk
Yeah,
about the
just get it
Patriots,
over with.
Nick. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
just
won't
get it
say
over with.
much. The only thing I will say is uh, playing better than I expected. Only thing I will say. And they ruined Drake May's first 300-yard game potentially.
Yeah, I mean, May still was incredible in this game. Only 7 incompletions, 282 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I mean, he's just great. Can't say much more about it. I guess I mean, where do I even go with the Giants? They're 2-11. The
The
disaster season
best
just
pick
continues.
available, Nick. You got a quarterback, a running back, and a
Yeah,
wide receiver. You got elite offensive talent. You have a great defensive line. You could either get Caleb Downs or you can get a top O lineman. So you don't have to feel pressure of taking a skill player, which is
it's
great.
possible they probably trade down depending on what pick they have. I think they're projected to get the 3rd pick or the 2nd pick. I don't know what the tiebreaker is with the Saints at the current moment, but yeah, at least Jackson Dart didn't get fully hurt because he got leveled at one point in that game. And we all, of course, also saw the worst field goal attempt in NFL history.
Yeah, I thought it was a fake.
I think everyone thought it was a fake. I wish
I
the
think even the
Giants.
other Giants, the offensive line thought it was a fake too.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, there's nothing I could say. This game was just bad. Obviously, for New England's purposes, it was good. They put up 30 first half points, including 17 in the first quarter. Um, yeah, can't really blame Shane Bowen because he's not even there anymore. So you can't really blame him for the Giants' defense really playing bad in this game again.
You
So
played an elite offense. It happens.
yeah, that's what it is. Anyway, let's go into the next mushing hour for week number 14. As I mentioned earlier on, Johnson, week 13 was probably our worst week, maybe ever.
I do this all the time. 2-6.
Both
There
of
have
us
been
going
weeks I
2 and
go
6
0 and
now.
8. I've gone 0 and 8. I've done worse.
Yeah, I know. Well, we do have what do we have? 7 games on the docket this week. It looks like very possibly that both of us are going to finish under 500 because I've gone from over 500 to now a whopping 9 games under.
Yeah, it's
So
unfortunate. I know I was never catching it, but yikes, Nick. That's not
yeah,
what you want.
I'm on the coldest of coldest streaks right now. It's been bad. It's been bad. Football's not treating me well. Let's just face facts. It has been treating me well this season. Oh well. Let's go on our first game of the week. Big game on Thursday night, and as I mentioned, it's probably an eliminator game in the NFC standings. You have the Dallas Cowboys at the Detroit Lions. The Lions are a 3-point home favorite. 54.5 is the over-under for this game. Johnson, I'm going to make my pick short and sweet. I know Amon Ra is not going to be there, but I'm still taking the over in this game because both of these defenses are just not trustworthy whatsoever.
Yeah, and I'll take Cowboys plus 3 because I really can't just trust the lines at this
Yeah,
point.
I if they don't have Amon Ra, I do not like their chances in this game. It looks more and more likely he's probably not going to play. So you're probably gonna have to rely heavily on Jahmyr Gibbs, and he can only do so much for this offense. If I was gonna pick the spread in this game, I'd be with you on Dallas +3 as well. I'll leave it at that. What do we have our next game?
We got a divisional match in the AFC North. Steelers at Ravens. Ravens are 5.5-point favorite at home. 43.5 is the slated over under. This is a tough one for me. I don't
Very
know
tough.
really who to pick here, but I'm going to take Steelers points here because I think it's a divisional game. It gets kind of funky. So give me Steelers plus 5.5.
Yeah, I just don't know because they both. It's not like either team is going into this game riding like a good high right now. Like Baltimore, even when they were winning, were not playing good. And the Steelers just we don't know what's going on with them. Rodgers got hurt again this past game. He's probably going to play, but I don't think it really matters at this rate. Um, Lamar, as we mentioned, is probably playing injured, so this is by far the toughest game to pick. And of course, it's a big one because it's going to prove to be who goes into first place in the AFC North. I'm gonna go with the under in this game, and I don't like it because these defenses aren't trustworthy to give me the under. But I'm basing this more off of how bad these two offenses have been these last few weeks. So I'll take the under for this game. If I had to pick the spread, I think I'd be with you again. I think I'd probably take the Steelers +5.5. I think it might be a field goal win for Baltimore though. So yeah. I'll leave it at that. I'm also looking at the college football rankings, so multitasking at the same time while we make these picks. Next game, I should say, we have on the docket, big game in the AFC South. It also will determine who goes into first place in that respective division. It's Colts at the Jaguars. Colts 1.5-point favorite, 47.5 is the over under.
Give me Colts minus 1.5. They got to get one here, and I think they'll get one because the Jags are just so confusing and bad half the time.
Yeah, they might be the worst 8-4 team I think I've ever watched because
I
they
think
don't.
so too. I would agree.
But here's the problem I have with this game. If you've looked at recent memory with the Colts in Jacksonville, it has been really bad. I'd have to look up the last time the Colts went to Jacksonville and won. I'll look that up in a minute while we break down the next game. I'm going to take Jacksonville +1.5. I think they win this game outright, but as I mentioned, the Colts' history in Jacksonville is not good. I don't remember what the last time they won in. I'm going to look right now. But while I do that, why don't you break down what our next game is?
We got Bengals at Bills. What used to be a heated rivalry for the AFC Championship at one point is now an afterthought. So we got Bills minus 5.5 at home. 52.5 is the slated over under. Give me Bengals plus 5.5 to cover here.
I mean, this is a great game, obviously. The Bengals, as I mentioned, they realistically have a shot to win the division.
Which is why I'm taking to get the points. They're playing for something greater.
I want points. Give me over. I want the points. You got a matchup with Burrow and Allen. I want to see a high scoring game. I want to see these two offenses thriving. T. Higgins might not play again because he's still in the concussion protocol, but I gotta take the points in this game. Give me the over 52.5 between Buffalo and Cincinnati. I'm hoping for a high scoring affair between those two teams. Our next matchup, Johnson, another matchup this week that we have that will vie for who will take ownership of a respective division. It's the battle for first place in the NFC North and maybe even the battle for the best record in the NFC potentially as the Bears go to Green Bay to take on the Packers. Packers 6.5 point favorite, 44.5 is the over under.
Packers minus 6.5. Packers minus 6.5. Don't think about it twice.
I'm gonna give the Bears the benefit of the doubt. I think the Packers win this game, but the Bears, I think, have to get some credit because they've been playing some really good football these last few weeks. I think they lose Packer this game, but I think they cover the game against Green Bay. So I'll take Chicago plus 6.5 on the road, but the Packers will move into first place in the NFC North. What's our next game?
Oh man, Nick, it's a doozy. On Sunday Night Football, we got Texans going into Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. The Chiefs are a 3.5 point favorite, and the over/under slate 41.5. And Nick, you know what I'm taking, right?
You're gonna take the Kansas City Chiefs, aren't you?
Money line, because even when they win, I win, and when they lose, I win even more. So give me Chiefs money line.
Every single Chiefs game is just gonna be that at this point, huh?
Yeah, until they're out of the playoffs, yes.
Okay. So I found the stat. The last time the Colts beat the Jaguars in Jacksonville was 2014. They won 44-17. They have not beaten the Jaguars in Jacksonville since 2014. The last time they beat them on a technical road game was in London in 2016. So it's been a while. It's been a little bit of time since they won in Jacksonville. So that's the only reason I took that pick. Anyway, going back to this game. Oh man. How many more times could I pick the Chiefs and get bit by how, they've been this season? The problem is, I feel like as if I take the Texans plus 3.5, then the Chiefs are probably gonna show out and probably cover this game. But I'm gonna give the Texans the benefit of the doubt, and I'm gonna take them to cover the plus 3.5. I gotta go with the best defense out of the two teams. The Chiefs defense isn't playing terrible right now. They've been up and down though. They look pretty bad against Dallas, but they need a big, strong showing against this Texans team that hasn't really looked great on offense this season. I do expect a defensive showdown between the two matchups, but I think the Texans cover the plus 3.5. I got to give them the benefit of the doubt, like I gave the Bears just the pick before. So I'll give Houston plus 3.5 on Sunday night. And then we round out the week on Monday Night Football. Eagles at the Chargers. It's Eagles minus 2.5. 40.5 is the over under.
Chargers plus 2.5. That's what I'm picking.
I would love to see the Eagles lose this game. But if Trey Lance is playing, they got no shot whatsoever. I think Herbert's going to play regardless. Even if Herbert plays, though, the Eagles' defense is still playing good enough against the pass. So the Chargers might have to rely on the running game to have a chance. And they might have Amari and Hampton back, it seems like, going in this game. So that's going to be a big get for them late in the season.
Man, it sounds like we got to play Kamani Vital more. What do I know?
I listen, as a former Cavani Vidal owner, I know obviously you and I made that trade for him, but yeah, I would not be upset if they keep going Cavani Vidal. They might just do what the Bears did on Friday. They might just go with the two-man committee. I think they should. They kind of expose that Eagles defense. But the problem is, the big difference of that is the Bears' offensive line has been pretty good this season. The Chargers' offensive line has not been good this season. So I unfortunately will take the Eagles minus 2.5. It's kind of like the thing with you and the Chiefs. The Eagles win, then I get the pick right. If they lose, I laugh at them, and we break it down next week here on the show. So it's kind of a win-win for me too.
Isn't that fun, Nick? See, this is how you're supposed to pick with class.
Yeah. I gotta just keep doing that for the Eagles and Cowboys games. I gotta have some enjoyment at this NFL season. So I'll do that for the remainder of the year. So give me Eagles minus 2.5 on Monday night to round out the week, and hopefully we have a better week than we had in week 13 because you can't get much worse than that. But that'll do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Johnson, any final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
Yeah, bring back Big East football. This is going to be segueing into our next show. Bring back Big East football.
Have you seen the rankings yet?
I have. Bring back Big East football.
Okay, so I can already tell you're not happy about the rankings. So we'll break that down. In our next episode here of the All Gas No Break Sports Show, we'll be breaking down the last regular season college football playoff ranking. We'll be breaking down the conference championship matchups, and we'll give our take as to who we think will be the final 12 teams in the college football playoff going in to compete for a national championship. But you'll have to tune in to our next episode. As for this episode, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Gas No Break Sports Show. 13 weeks into the NFL season, we now head into week 14, and the playoff picture is starting to get a little bit more clearer in both the AFC and the NFC for teams like the Lions, the Texans, the Steelers, Chiefs, Cowboys, Panthers. They've still got some work to do, and they've got a shot to do it this week. You got on Thursday night, Cowboys and the Lions battle for first in the AFC North, AFC South, and NFC North this week, as well as a big game between Cincinnati and Buffalo, Texans and Chiefs on Sunday Night Football, Eagles and Chargers on Monday Night Football. A very great slate coming up in Week 14. For Nicholas Bavona and Andrew Johnson, this has been the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your week.